So what I would tell my younger self is the fact that every single action counts, and even so life could be very difficult and you may not understand all what's happening in the situation, and you may be looking for answer and don't find it, but you can still focus on a day-to-day basis on what you can control, like your schoolwork, making good friends, exploring what your values are and things like that, and doing your best really given the circumstances. And I found that being an adoptee is at layers of complexity in terms of understanding oneself, and to me introspection has been really, really helpful. And then as I go by, I was able to meet some people who had little bits of the answer. They may not have the whole part of the answer, but you have little nuggets of wisdom here and there, and it could be from some specific family members, some friends, teachers at school, or just a chance encounter. And then progressively you do have more understanding about life in general, and about yourself. And even so there might be difficult times and painful times. When you look back on those events, you may not be able to change the event as such, but you might be able to, when you revisit things, you might be able to filter it with a different perspective, and in this case you may find different part of the truth, and all of that could help in the healing process. I also think that it's important to know that you are not alone, and there are other people around you that do care about you. You may not necessarily see them at that time, or you may meet them several years later, or there might be people in your past, but whatever warmth that was given is still going to be there. And so that is also a comfort. And the best friend that you could have is yourself. And so when you're young, if you go through life and in a responsible manner, or as responsible as possible, then you might be able to protect yourself for the future, and likewise your future self might be able to revisit what happened in the past and provide some healing about what has happened. But overall, you can be there for yourself at different moments in time. I would say that having a good relationship with oneself is extremely important. And as an adoptee, I feel that sometimes we don't understand ourselves, and sometimes we might feel angry against ourselves and things like that. But at the end of the day, you need to be kind to yourself, which is easier said than done, but it is possible.
Let it breathe, just be
to make international and transethnic adoption better would be to ask the adoptive parents the real reason why they want to adopt, and really sometimes it's about healing some of the wounds. Sometimes it might be about some fantasy, sometimes it's about do good and things like that, but they really need to be honest with themselves. And some professional services might be there to kind of help them in that journey. And the answer might not be international and transethnic adoption, might be something else. So you need to really be honest with yourself. And also do the work of the healing, and don't necessarily think that the child could relieve things, because there will be, several issues and things like that, and I don't think any of the adoption or international and transethnic adoption is an easy process for anyone involved. But if the adoptive family decide to still go ahead, then they really need to be 100% with it, or maybe even more, and make the effort and take the time to learn about the culture of the birth country, so that they can give the adoptee the facilities and the knowledge and the confidence to be proud of their heritage, and so that to avoid any situation where they would feel just like a second best, or kind of coming from a culture that is not as good as the host country. So that could also mean, for example, having some language lessons and things like that. On the other hand, I don't want to be too prescriptive, because each adoptee goes through their own journey, and it's very, very personal, and people might not be ready at certain point in their life and things like that. And each adoptee is also part of a wider spectrum, from people who really don't want or to know about where they come from, to people who really, really want to. And that spectrum can also change during the lifetime of the adoptee. So my advice for the family would be, to know about the information, the different services, organization, where to find all these answers and things like that, and so that when the adoptee is ready, start to introduce them at their own pace. I also believe that the social services or the government of the host country, as well as the social services and government from the original country, need to put in place a robust post-adoption service nationally, but also internationally, that can coordinate. And when I think about post-adoption service, and I did a little bit of research, in the United Kingdom, for example, it's mainly focused on when the child just got adopted, just maybe a few years after that, and maybe until they are adult. And then just a few services really look at providing post-adoption services for adults. And I do believe that adoption is a lifelong process, and therefore the service, the availability of the service needs to be there throughout the life of the adoptee, and should not only be restricted to the adoptee but also to the family, maybe friends, because there need to be some sort of support system, because relationship changes, socioeconomic circumstances changes, and so what could have been a good fit at some point may actually not necessarily be the same a few years later, and the family may need extra support because they're going themselves through challenging time. And when adoptive family go through challenging time, I strongly believe that the adoptee themselves can be more vulnerable than other members of the family. And so that's the reason why it's important to put those type of system in place. And also maybe let the educational system know about those services so people could refer people.
혹시 마주친다면